So the last one of our specialty kind of virtual instruments, apart from our synths and our samplers, is the Dr. Octo Rex. And Octo makes you think of 8, right? And that's because you can play up to 8 different loops within this loop playback engine. Now, this is derived from Dr. Rex in earlier versions of Reason. And basically, you would need an instance for a Dr. Rex for each loop you're playing, and this is being consolidated into this Dr. Octo Rex. And a patch here is actually a collection of up to 8 different patches from within that. So again, we could just browse right here, and I encourage you to go through all of these different loop patches, which are a collection of 8 different loops within that. Now, of course, when we think of loops, we tend to think of drums and percussion, things like that. But look through here: bass, guitar loops, music loops, percussion. So if you're not a guitarist and you want some funky loops, go through here. There's a lot of very good patches here. So with this acoustic drums brought up and the enable loop playback is lit, if I just hit the space bar and you just select each particular loop, I think this is kind of a fill here. And you'll notice that those loops will come back at the top of a measure or at the top of however long that loop is, so that therefore you can, whenever you hit a new loop, it will be queued until it makes sense for that to come in. So that's basically what's going on with a loop. You might think, well, loops, that's pretty easy. It's just a sample that's being played back around and around. But underneath this little innocuous triangle, we've noticed that whenever you click on this, quite often you see a lot of stuff under the hood. And this is what's underneath the hood of this particular loop right here. And if I hit Select Slice by MIDI right here, what you'll notice is instead of this just playing back, one big loop at a time, these are all assigned to keys, and you can see this picture-in-picture. All of these are just one slice at a time. And what's the great thing about that, you might ask? Well, here's the great thing about it. You can play it at whatever tempo you like. If this was just one big blob of audio, then if you wanted to make it faster, then quite often you'll get all these kind of artifacts with it as it kind of get Munchkinized or Darth Vaderized if you've got a background in sampling. So with Select Slice by MIDI, I can go through here. Now the decay of these, listen to when I just tap that really quickly, it doesn't really sound like a kick drum. If we go over here to the amp envelope and give that a healthy release now, doesn't matter if I hit that long or just basically tap it, it will play the entire duration of that particular slice of this loop. So here's where using slices is great. I'm going to play this back at kind of a normal tempo. What if I played that slowly? Or change the tempo? That's where slices are really, really I'm just trying to think of the right adjective, but they're really cool. Okay, let's just leave it at that. And then when you select any of these slices here, you can do different things. You can pitch them, pan them level, and do a bunch of common things over here in terms of your typical synth programming there as well. So how do you have this record down into a track? I'm glad you asked. Let's look at that. I've set up a left locator point at the top of measure 1 and the right locator at 5 here. Now there's a little button right here called Copy Loop to Track. Do you remember how all of these slices were basically MIDI note numbers? If you click on this Copy Loop to Track, watch what happens down here. Blam! You can see that it's basically put in all those note numbers there sequentially, and because the left and right loop is defined as 4 measures, it's done it twice. And so if I press play here, wow. Okay, so it's playing it back, but it's kind of got this phasing quality to that. What is going on there? If I click turn off enable loop playback, that should get rid of it. Because here what was going on is that enable loop playback there, what happens then is that as soon as you hit play, it will go through this loop. Remember, we just auditioned that before, but what we've done is actually copied that loop to a track, and so now this is playing those notes back. And if it's playing that back as a loop and also playing those individual notes back at exactly the same time, then you'll get that phasing sound. So you'll either want to do it one way or the other. So that's how to actually bring them out into a track here. There's another way to do it. If I went ahead and deleted this, and instead of doing it copy the loops to track, if we go back here to enable loop playback, here's what we can do. We can record, and we can record these button presses to change different patterns. Here we go. I'll do a pre-count off. Cool, so all of those button presses have been recorded, and if we play that from the top, watch these button presses change. Okay, so where were those recorded? Well, if we scroll down here, a special thing has happened down here, pattern select. Remember we saw that a little earlier? And if you select down here, we saw this in the red drum. If you go down here, you can decide which loop is going to be played back at any particular time. And just like, I'm not sure I showed this before, but here's how you can do it with the pencil tool. You can go in here and say, okay, I want to, in fact, let me go back there. If you don't see the pattern select there, remember this little button up here? Create pattern lane. Now, with the pencil, we can go through here and say, okay, I want one there, one there, one there, and one there. That's snapping out to bars because we have it set right there. And then we will go back and then select, I want to start off with 3, then 2, then 8, then 1, something like that. So there's 3, 2, go to 8, and then 1.